Hello there everybody, welcome back to another Lost Ark video, and today we're going to be doing a Topical Tuesday video. What a shock. But this week's video is going to be primarily focused, I say primarily, it's probably going to be entirely focused on the LOAON summer recap, specifically provided by Saint Tony, Flashbang, as that's just what we're going to have to deal with. But it's a Google Doc, I'll link the Google Doc in the description. But if you have been living under a rock and somehow haven't heard, then yes, it's true. The LOAON this year has announced Tier 4, which is the main thing to be looking out for here. Tier 4 obviously is... I was going to say it's a big difference. I mean, it is a big difference, don't get me wrong, but it's not a full hard reset like Tier 1 to Tier 2, Tier 2 to Tier 3. It's more of a soft reset, rather akin to something like getting Belshazzar gear or getting Khan gear, something like that, more traditionally. But anyways, this is by Saint Tony, Saint Ton, Saint Tony, my boy. He doesn't know I exist, but we're very good friends, clearly. Has made this document, and we're just going to kind of go through it. So, I guess the precursor here, it'll be maintained until update releases in global. Information will be updated and corrected later in June when KR Dev blog goes more in depth. Most of these changes specifically impact T4 items, meaning you shouldn't scrap or adjust your current setup. Estimated Tier 4 timeline: Korea gets it July 10th, Russia gets it sometime in September, global gets it ? Because we don't know. No global announced date. Some of the main things: Chaos Dungeons getting slightly changed. Curzon Battlefield will replace the content for players that are 1620 or higher. It plays like a Chaos Dungeon, but only one run needs to be done per day, and it takes approximately 1.5x the time of one Chaos Dungeon. They did not say you get less materials for doing this rather than a Chaos Dungeon. Curzon Battlefield uses 100 Chaos Resonance, and for rest players can be run every third day. They removed some content. All the rehearsal raid difficulties, they removed Chaos Line, they removed Throne Spire, they removed fucking GVG and Tubuluk Battlefield. When you reach 1620, you have the ability to jump to 1640 immediately. You should be prepared for the fact that you'll have much higher level gold raids available to you after you make this jump. Whatever that means. As far as I'm aware, we don't really know. Impacted progression systems, basically everything. Your gearing, your arc passive gearing. Arc passive is another thing that we'll be going over shortly. Leveling, the level cap is raised to 70. Honing, advanced honing, gems, quality accessories, bracelet, engravings, cards, runes, tripods. All of these things are changing from going from Tier 3 to Tier 4. Not impacted but carry over: Elixirs Transcendence. Elixirs and Transcendence are separated from your gear and are passively activated in new menus now. This allows you to retain their effects even though you'll be changing to new equipment. We don't know if you'll be able to see the effects when you expect another player. Some tips from Saint, preparing for Season 3 T4. If you want to read through that, you can. Traditional gearing versus arc passive gearing. This is the most important part of Tier 4, the arc passive thing. Arc passive is very good, and it's sort of the new Tier 4 thing. Currently, in Lost Ark, you must gear up by obtaining your set, accessories, and engravings, but starting in Tier 4, you'll be able to gear up through a new system called Arc Passive. This is an opt-in system, but eventually can become more powerful and more flexible to tailor your build on the fly, and this is something you can slowly work towards. Arc Passive replaces how you get your set bonuses, combat stats, class engravings, combat engravings with a more free-form system that grants you more flexibility and options compared to the system of gearing that we have in Tier 3. The Arc Passive system does not replace the following: gems, bracelet, cards, tripods, equipment, honing level. You still need to acquire those things separately. The Arc Passive can be toggled on and off freely, and you're able to switch between the current system and the new one at no cost. This is because your setup going into Tier 4 will likely be stronger than the Arc Passive system initially until you've set it up. The point at which you transition over to the Arc Passive system will depend on a few factors. Your class. Arc Passive gives you access to more customization options that aren't normally available to your class through traditional gearing. For some classes, this will be more powerful at an earlier stage. Reading engraving books. Reading the engraving books does something different from Arc Pass system. The purple, legendary, and now relic books empower your engravings and are necessary to read for the engravings that you tend to use. There are 3 tabs in the Arc Passive system. They are Evolution, Enlightenment, and Leap. Each tab has its own talent tree and affects different parts of your character. Each row also has its own points to spend. Evolution is a replacement for your combat stats in your equipment set, Nightmare, Salvation, Yearning, etc., etc. In this tree, you will be able to allocate stat points with fine-tuned controls and also add points to effects that take place of your set bonus. Judging from how accessories increase their respective tree's point cap when honed, it may be the case that honing your evolution equipment will similarly provide you points for this tree. Needs verification. This is just speculation. There's going to be a lot of speculation here until, you know, Korea actually gets tier 4 and we can see how it works from them. This is just from the stuff that they showed at LOAON. And again, I'll link the document in the description so you can take a look at this yourself if you're interested. Enlightenment is the replacement for your class engraving. In the combat engraving screen we look at later in the section, you'll notice there are only 5 engravings that you select, even though it's commonly mentioned and discussed that you get to choose 6 by 3. That's because whereas before you equipped the class engraving, now the class engraving has become its own talent tree and is baked into your build by default. There are 4 rows found in the Enlightenment tree. The first 2 rows have traits similar to your existing class engravings. The last 2 rows have new traits that can impact your gameplay in ways you may not have had access to before. For example, there's a new trait for Gunlancer players that swaps their spacebar to a forward hop. This is something that you wouldn't have access to with traditional gearing. The director mentioned through Enlightenment, you obtain new traits of your class that are new to Tier 4. For example, classes that lost their identity with a certain class engraving may now gain one. A note, as it will be mentioned again later, honing accessories provides additional points that you can spend in the Enlightenment tree. Leap is the talent tree that influences your Hyper Awakening and brand new Hyper Awakening skills. They serve as a replacement for tripods specifically for these skills. It is not currently known where leap points come from besides being for a potential option on the bracelet roll. Every class in the game gains access to improved versions of their existing awakening skills. These are called Hyper Awakening. In combat, you'll have to fill a gauge that surrounds the awakening icon, and once it's full, the skill is transformed to its hyper variant. It is presumed that using the awakening skill without the meter being full will have you cast the original awakening. Additionally, every class gains 2 new Hyper Awakening skills. These are not the same as Hyper Awakenings, they're just 2 completely new regular use skills that come in the same update. To facilitate the addition of these skills, a new hotbar is added to the Awakening hotbar. Default keybind T, only the new skills can be placed in this new slot, meaning you'll have to choose one of the 2 to use with your build. We don't have any examples of these abilities yet. We don't know how strong they will be, or if they will have any use conditions, or what their cooldowns are like, but it's fair to assume that they'll be game changers. Some classes will have access to a 3rd Hyper Awakening skill, though it's currently predicted that these are the transformation classes while they're in their identity state: Artillerist, Shadowhunter, Machinist. Combat engravings. In the traditional gearing system, you had to build your engravings by assembling accessories and equipping the engravings similar to fitting together pieces of a puzzle. This is no longer the case if you're using the Arc passive. With the Arc passive, you'll just pick 5 engravings to have equipped, similar to the engraving support system. These will be activated immediately. However, they started a base form, imagine level 1 in the old system, and in order to increase their strength, you must read the relevant engraving books. This means 20 blue books, 20 purple, 20 legendary, and now 20 relic books that are new, which got added. The 20 figure for books currently is assumed. We think it's 20 for existing rarities. Obviously, they have no idea about relics. Might need less, might need more. We don't know. It's just something you gotta wait and see. The potency of the engraving will increase automatically after every 5. This number is assumed based on the screenshot above. Books that you've read, meaning that each rarity of book will increase the power of the engraving 4 times before you move on to the next book rarity. In the screenshot example above, you can see the player finish reading the blue books, the purple books, so they're getting the full 3% damage from purple books and still need to read 2 more legendary books to finish those. They're only getting 2.25 from legendary added to the engraving's base right now. Their ability stone is also adding 3.75 to the engraving, so in total, Grudge is currently providing them a 21% bonus damage to bosses. When they finish reading the last 2 legendary books, it will increase by another 0.75, and they'll be at 21.75 from Grudge. Afterwards, you'll start reading the relic books, unlocking each of the bonuses every few books read until all 4 levels are activated and they're done. All existing books that you've read will carry over to the system, but remember there's now relic books. And then just some advice from Saint. Leveling, it's being raised from 60 to 70. It means more skill points. Skills can speculatively be upgraded to level 13 and 14 at level 65 and 70, respectively, according to old images regarding the level cap raise. Ignore the tripods. They're no longer in the game, basically. I mean, they are, but it's different with the Arc Pass subsystem. Identity skills and awakening skills should automatically upgrade at 65 and 70 again. Experience rates are being increased by 1.5 times all content up to 60, and event characters will immediately jump to 60. Training in the Stronghold will support the growth of alt characters to your highest level character in the roster up to level 69. And then again, Saint just saying maybe we save cube tickets to help push 70 quicker. That's like very min-maxy stuff. It's up to you if you want to do any of this stuff. Again, you'll have plenty of time to wait and see from when Korea gets the patch to when we'll get it, I'm sure. And then here's the biggest meat and potatoes, honing. Starting from item level 1620 and proceeding the necessary main story quests, you'll gain access to fucking Nuts Castle. Knut D's Nuts Castle in the North Curzon continent. This is a dungeon, not a chaos dungeon, not a raid, where you can obtain tier 4 relic gear. And then some more, we don't really know how you get it, if it's RNG drop, if you can spam farm it, whatever, we have no idea. This is what we're going to have to wait and see. From plus 19 tier 3 Akon Ancient Gear, so item level 1620, this will transfer into tier 4 D's Nuts Relic Gear, item level 1640, so you gain 20 item levels at plus 19, basically. And it's not specified how much the enhancement will downgrade, though remember, since Knart gear caps at plus 20, it'll likely be similar to what we've seen in past Succession. Plus 25 Ancient Akon people will have to downgrade a minimum of 5 stages. Tier 4 Knart Relic Gear can be upgraded to plus 20 max. It has the exact same stats as Tier 4 Agar Ancient Raid Gear that comes after it. However, the Ancient Gear can be upgraded beyond plus 20 to plus 25. Honing in Tier 4 requires new shards, leap stones, armor stones, weapon stones, and array house. We're unsure if it uses new protection materials, but we're assuming that it does. In Tier 3, silver honing is being increased to 1540, and additional honing nerfs being applied up to 1580. This does mean that 1610 to 1620 honing is still very daunting because there's no current changes mentioned for it. Doesn't mean that there won't be, but there's none mentioned. Advanced Honing, which is the next system that we're getting in the Western version. Advanced Honing will carry over to Tier 4. When you succeed your gear into Tier 4, it also retroactively changes the materials required in Advanced Honing into Tier 4 materials. And again, they don't know this for sure, but the assumption is that for stages 1 to 20, it will require less materials than if you were still in Tier 3. Just because, obviously, Tier 4 materials are more valuable and harder to get. So it would stand to reason that it would cost less of them to do advanced honing, but it's hard to tell what you should really do. Again, this is more of a we need to wait and see kind of what happens. Gems are the next big thing that a lot of people have been talking about and a lot of people are upset about, depending on who you ask. Tier 4 gems obviously are a thing. Your Tier 3 gems aren't completely useless, however, which is good. Some important notes here from good old Saint Tony. Tier 3 gem power is not diminished in Tier 4 content. However, Tier 4 gems are noticeably stronger than Tier 3 ones as a whole due to base attack power increases on every gem. You don't need to transition all of your gems over at once. For certain classes that have damage distribution that leans towards one or a few skills, it might be better to temporarily leave them, blah, blah, blah. Support players must use 11 gems as well as some damage gems now due to damage gems having new effects called support efficacy for buffs and shields. Base AP increases likely affecting overall attack buff potency. Transformation classes must use 11 gems now for the same reason. Since 11 Tier 4 gems with increased base AP is a sizable overall damage increase, rushing high level gems to fill the slots isn't necessary since cost is exponential but gain is linear. Some more notes from Old Saint here. You can convert your existing Tier 3 gems to Tier 4 for a silver cost. This will preserve the type of gem, damage/cooldown, and downgrade the level. The downgrading the level is the big part. The only example shown was that a Tier 3 level 10 becomes a Tier 4 level 8. The silver cost for the conversion was 210,000 silver. It also mentioned that Tier 3 level 9s become Tier 4 level 7s. So it seems like you lose 2 levels on the conversion. And then Tier 4 gem bonuses are a little different from Tier 3. This is the chart that we know right now. We know a Tier 3 damage gem at level 7 would give 21% skill damage. Tier 4 damage gem, we don't know how much skill damage it gives. We know it gives a certain amount of support efficacy. We know it gives 0.60 base AP. for gem level 8. A level 8 tier 3 gem would give 24% skill damage. In a tier 4 one would give 36%. Remember, a tier 4 level 8 is equivalent to a tier 3 level 4, or level 10, excuse me, Jesus Christ, which is 40% skill damage. So you lose 4% skill damage there, but you gain the 0.8% base AP. And then obviously the conversion for cooldowns you can see here too. The skill cooldown, you still get 20, which is interesting, but who knows? Who knows what the plan is? And obviously we don't have any more information on like what a level 10 tier 4 gem looks like, but it is interesting to note, and we can make some guesses. I've seen a lot of people throwing around the number 50% skill damage for level 10 tier 4s. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. And also, we don't know the upgrade method of tier 4 gems currently, so we're assuming it's the same as tier 3 as of writing. You combine 3 gems and output of higher level gem of either damage or cooldown. And this is also explaining why gems have crashed. Quality also goes up to 120 now, which is interesting, and also has a pity system. So your current quality will carry over. It's not known if the transfer is 1-to-1 or will scale. We're assuming it's 1-to-1. Quality taps require a new Stone of Chaos and more gold per tap. It's not known if we can convert our existing Stones of Chaos or not. The percent weight of each value has been redistributed in favor of the player. For example, at 87 quality in tier 3, it's a 1% chance to increase quality, but at 87 quality in tier 4, it's more than 7%. There is a pity function that's been added to tier 4 quality taps. If you fail enough times to fill it, the next tap is guaranteed to be a success. However, we don't know how the gain is determined. It's also not known how many times you need to fail to hit pity. Accessories. Tier 4 has a full new set of accessories, including jewelry, ability stones, and bracelets. Currently, it's confirmed that your ability stone can be converted. However, the jewelry and bracelets have not been confirmed. The reason for the jewelry may be because the combat stats and engravings previously found in accessories do not impact our passive system at all. Tier 4 accessories can be refined up to 3 times. There is a gold and material cost, and the honing success rate is always 100%. And then there's a little note here. The material cost is currently presumed to be a byproduct that is salvaged when dismantling tier 4 accessories and can be listed on the auction house based off the market quick access icons in the refinement UI, but you need to verify this, so we need to wait and see. This is all just guesswork, keep that in mind. Each time you refine the accessory up to 3 times, it will add a random bonus line of stat to the accessory. From the screenshot that was shown, you can see the following options. You have things like attack power, additional damage, brand potency, crowd control duration, and HP recover. There are plenty more. The scroll bar is very small, you can see. There's a lot of effects. It's basically like you're rolling bracelets for every piece of gear, I think is what it seems to be, to me at least. You can roll duplicates of the same stat, so it's possible to roll percent AP on all 3 lines, albeit very unlikely. There's not a system to reroll these lines. While it is really easy to look at the system and feel like you're basically having to deal with the bracelet system 5 more times, it's a better outlook to view your 5 accessories as 1 extra bracelet, with less useless lines populating the pool. Also, considering there's little variance in the base item, the initial layer of RNG getting a bracelet with 2 usable static lines and 3 discoverable ones doesn't apply here. It's not nearly as bad. Also worth mentioning is the accessories that have been refined and have new lines of stats that can be sold on the auction house. That means there's a brand new market for people to engage in, and it also means that if you dislike the system, you can just buy the accessories that meet your approval, which is good, I will say. Then when an accessory has been refined, it will also increase the total amount of enlightenment points you have in the arc passive tree, so it's vital to +3 all of your accessories at some point or another. Refining the accessory also slightly increases the stats of the accessory. And then another note from Saint. Ability stones. For the ability stone, the cost of conversion to tier 4 is reduced depending on the level of the stone from Kyangle upgrades. The arc passive system has lowered the value of 9.7, and the equivalent ability stones is the power difference between those two. But between those who have one and those who don't has been greatly reduced. It has also made it so that things like reverse 9.7 stones and 9.7 stones with defunct engravings, e.g. level 2 grudge, master of ambush, etc., may be valuable or usable. Currently usable 9.7 and equivalent stone holders are 6% stronger than those who don't own one. After the arc passive system, this will change to be under 1.5%, but can be higher for players with greater than 9.7 stones, such as 10.7, 9.9, and above. 8.8 stones continue to be useless even after the system change. They are equivalent to a 7/7 with more HP in the Hark passive system. An 8 on a node is always the same as a 7 in terms of empowering your engravings. 7/7 will continue to be the gold standard. However, a 9/6 is slightly better due to the stat increases from 7 to 9 being twice the increase from 6 to 7. If you have a 7/7 or a 9/6, I'd say you're in great shape and don't really need to worry about a new stone, provided your current stone has the engravings you want to empower on it. In the Arc passive system, you may want your stone to specifically have certain engravings on it. Previously, in the traditional gearing system, the ability stone was used to build your character's engravings. In the Arc passive system, since you're given all the engravings automatically without building them, the new purpose of the stone is empowering the engravings on the stone further. We won't know what exactly engravings we want until we see the full list of how they all scale and stuff. Optimal or meta builds for classes may change, etc., etc. And ability stones empower engravings at 6, 7, 9, and 10 nodes cut. This doesn't mean the position of the node, it means the number of total nodes cut. In the example below, Adrenaline failed at the 6th node, so you can see the level 1 boost move forward 1 position, so that would become the 6th node to succeed. So it's pretty much self-explanatory, right? The first level activates at 6, the second activates at 7, the third activates at 9, the fourth activates at 10 if you somehow get one. Makes sense. In the image above, the ability, yeah, we already did it. I already explained that. He's just repeating himself, basically. Bracelets. With the level cap raising, we're going to be facing enemies higher than level 60, and all special lines in T3 bracelets have reduced efficiency against enemies above level 60. You can find the stipulation in parentheses on impacted special effects when hovering over the bracelet with your cursor. We don't know how much loss it is, and if it's granular depending on the level difference from the player to the enemy. They've also not stated if there's a conversion system for bracelets from T3 to T4, so it's uncertain if our bracelets will become useless or not. Wait and see, but I probably hold off on spending gold, cutting bracelets for now. Honestly, I think that's just a fair statement right now. I'd probably wait and see sort of what these systems end up being before we do anything, right? Lastly, a new system has been implemented when rolling lines in T4 bracelets. When re-rolling a line, you're allowed to select the existing line or take the new one. So it's like a black cube from MapleStory, which is good. Previously in Tier 3, if you gambled a line, you were always forced to take the new one. That's going to be a big change to make them a little bit less annoying. There are new cards. They've also changed the LOS card thing. What they ended up doing here is they added LOS 24, which is kind of big. The old one was just LOS 12, 18, 30. Now it's 12, 18, 24, 30. So they gain 4% at 24, which is better than it just being nothing until 30, from 18 to 30. And they also added a Light of Salvation style card set for every single element in the game, like KLC for Dark. So all of them will have their own element. It's not currently known if the sets will replace existing sets that convert elemental property, and it's not known how many and which of the existing cards you'll have that will be used for the other sets. We don't know. Runes, there's not a lot of information on this, but T4 will introduce new runes into the game. Only one example was provided, which was the Vision rune. And it's legendary. This rune is a combination of Galewind and Overwhelm, increasing casting speed by 10% and stagger by 20% on a skill it's equipped on. Acquisition method currently not known. Tripods. There isn't any change being made to tripod acquisition since there are a pretty good amount of amulet sources from events and in-game contents. However, worth noting is the limit for the number of tripods you can have activated in your build is being removed. That means if your build has more than 18 tripods that can be leveled, you can now level all of them. For some builds, they'll be able to squeeze extra damage because of that. And that's the end of the document. I think that pretty much goes over all of the big systems from the T4 conversion and sort of how everything fits underneath it. Again, that's all I just kind of wanted to sit down and talk about. I mean, I guess I'll talk about my thoughts on sort of the LOAON as a whole. Just briefly, because I don't want to spend too much more time here since we've already been going for 24 minutes. I've been fucking yapping for 24 minutes straight, my god. Overall, do I think this is good, bad? What do I think? I think it's kind of foolish to expect an MMO not to change, and especially like gear reset specifically. Do I think they did it in a good way? I don't know. I'll have to see how the systems sort of work and see how tedious some of the new stuff is. There's a lot to grind in this game, and as somebody who doesn't swipe, mostly because I can't swipe, I just don't have the funds to swipe. If I could, I would. I mean, I'll be the first to say it. It'd make the game way more enjoyable. Um, Coming at it from this perspective, though, I'm somebody who basically has to grind up everything that I have. So, like, all of my characters with level 9 gems that were previously worth, like, 1.2 mil gold a set is now basically nothing, and I'm going to have to basically do that all over again. And it took me, what, 2.5 years to kind of get to this point? Like, yeah, of course, I wasn't the most efficient or whatever, but just thinking about that level of grinding again, it kind of does bum me out a little bit. But obviously, there always needs to be, like, the thing to chase in these games. I just worry that in Lost Ark, there's too many things to chase. And obviously, it's like that by design because they would rather you spend money. And as far as, like, for newer players or, like, system changes in terms of things that we complained about, like elixirs or transcendence, like, elixirs and transcendence didn't really get changed that much. Like, they nerfed the cost by 50%, but that was basically it, aside from making elixirs not bound to your gear. But I think that's more because of the arc passive rather than the gear. I don't know. It's just stuff I'm going to have to wait and see how it shakes out. Overall, I'm all right with it. I mean, I'll play the game still, that's for sure. We'll have to see, though. In my opinion, I have to see it. See how my opinion develops. Anyways, I need to stop talking. I've been talking for almost 30 minutes straight. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Let me know what you guys think about the tier 4 stuff. I'll see you guys all in the next one. Mwah. Bye.